Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the English Fluency Guide, and I'm making this quick video both for parents who want to teach their kids how to spell and read, and also for my adult non-native English students who are learning English all over the world. This will really be a really interesting video for you. It will show you how you should be learning and some of the typical mistakes that people make when they're designing reading programs, not only for kids, but for adults as well. So I'm going to be talking about Duolingo ABC Learn to Read. This is a new app that was just released by Duolingo. So Duolingo is a popular way of learning languages, which actually I don't recommend to my students because it basically teaches you to use translations from one language to learn a second one. And the reason I don't want people to do that is because one of the biggest problems when they're actually trying to speak is they have to think and translate in their heads before they say something. So they have to think of a sentence in their head first and then try to translate that mentally and then say that sentence. So let's look at what they built and see what's good about it and what needs improvement. Now, this seems like an actually pretty big app with a lot of content in it, so I can't really go through everything about it, but I just wanted to talk very quickly about what I've seen so far, just looking at the first few small levels of it. But let's talk specifically about the kind of learning that apps like this have and why I don't recommend it for parents. So when you actually get into the app, the first thing you're going to see, it's a very simple interface, which is a great design. But the first level that they have is just a picture of a monkey, and they're teaching you how to read the word monkey. Now, the reason this is a really bad place to start is if you're just trying to tell someone what a word is and you're just giving them a word to memorize, you're not actually teaching them anything. You're showing them a word, and hopefully, I guess in Duolingo's eyes, we're going to have you repeat this word often enough that you start to remember it, but you're not really learning anything. The real gamification from something comes from when you can actually discover something about what you're learning. And when you do that, that's when the actual learning process happens. It's almost like you can feel something like that. So if I were to use this same approach, but teach you Japanese, and I'm going to start just in the middle of an advanced lesson giving you a difficult word, I would give you maybe the word tornado, and then just give you the Japanese word for this, which is tatsumaki. Now, I can give you that Japanese word and just have you try to remember it again and again, but if you look at the word, you have no idea, if you don't know Japanese at all, what any of these characters mean or how to read them, because again, you're looking at multiple characters and you don't know what part of the word is for what part of those characters. So how do we read? Is it tatsu and then maki, or is it tatsuma and then ki, or something else? So we don't actually know how to read that. But this is the way people typically teach vocabulary in a different language, and this is also what people do for teaching reading. And so when you're learning this way, you actually have to make the language understandable, almost kind of like a puzzle. And that's how you really gamify something to make it easy to understand. So using our Japanese example, if we're going to take something like tatsumaki, I would teach even this. I would not begin teaching Japanese with a word like this, but I think it's just an interesting example because they've used the word monkey, which is a more difficult example in English. But let's say I teach a related word, like harumaki, which is a spring roll. Now, all of a sudden, if I've got both of these words together for you, you get a little bit more context. Now you've even got kind of a puzzle where you're looking at what's similar between these two different words. So we've got tatsumaki and we've got harumaki. And so when you're looking at that, like, oh, that's interesting. They both have maki in that. And if I actually write these out in Chinese characters, so there are 3 different written languages for Japanese. But if I write this out in Chinese characters, you're going to see, oh, like that's the same character for that. I guess maybe that means like a roll or wrap or something like that. And that's what it means. And so that's where you actually gamify something. And the learning, especially for learning a second language, and that's what reading is. So reading is actually teaching someone a second language because it's like learning hieroglyphics or any other different written language, because to a child, they might know the English word monkey if you said that to them or showed them a picture of a monkey, but it's basically an alien language, so something completely different when they see it in writing. And that's why you have to remember that a child looking at the word monkey has no idea what letter, what part of that word makes what sound. And so that's why you don't want to teach a word like monkey before you teach anything else. So going back to our Japanese example, we're looking at tatsumaki, and then we've got harumaki, or we could even have makizushi. So if we have sushi, like a regular sushi you would get at a sushi restaurant, but a rolled sushi becomes a makizushi. So once you see all that, then you really start to become really excited about learning, because you're starting to put the pieces together yourself. And this is what actual learning is. It's not about a teacher just telling you what something is and forcing you to remember it. It's about you understanding how the language works. And if I explain to you or just show you, giving you these different examples like that and letting you understand what the idea of maki is, then it becomes really fun for you, and you don't need anything like a progress bar telling you how much left to go of this boring lesson there is, because you're enjoying it. That's what gamification really means. So how do you fix this problem? How do you actually make reading fun and allow children to teach themselves the language rather than trying to just have them remember something again and again by reviewing it over and over again? You, in the same way that we were using the maki example for Japanese, you want to take English letters. You begin with something very simple, and you simply allow students or children to compare and contrast different sounds. So that's why we begin with something like a 3-letter word instead of something longer like monkey. So we have a cat. So we have the 3 letters here, and we can let a student actually see what the different sounds these letters are. And in this combination, you would get a k, a, t, just by using these 3 letters here. And then we would let students try different letters and see, just by switching 1 letter or 2 letters, what does that change, and how do the sounds of the letters change because of that? So we could have cat as a beginning, but maybe we change that C to a B to make bat, or we change the T to a P to make cap. And this is where, if a child can manipulate this by themselves, this is where they can actually teach themselves how to read. Isn't that cool? So just like our maki example, it's a puzzle. You're allowing children to actually discover the words and their sounds by themselves, and not trying to force them to remember something. That's exactly what most people do in the classroom, and that's why there's a serious literacy crisis happening not only in the United States, but in other countries as well. And this is why it's so difficult also for most people who are learning languages. So when you're thinking about what's a great way to learn, you have to remember this idea about how you're connecting words and how you're allowing children or adults to discover the rules of the language for themselves. And so if you'd like to see more about how to do this, I created an app that does this exact thing called Frederick Learn to Read. And using this, I'll just show you a quick example here where we're manipulating the different letters just to show, here's a very simple way to test different letter sounds to show how actual words are made. And instead of the teacher or the program telling you what something is, you get to manipulate that yourself. And that's why it really feels great to learn, because you discovered something, and that's what really makes it the fastest way to learn how to read. So if you'd like to learn more about doing this and then being able to play real games and allowing you to test what you know after you've learn some things for yourself, you can click on the link in the upper right of this video or on the description to learn more about Frederick Learn to Read. But this is a completely new way of learning the language, but it's the way the mind actually wants to learn. So to download Frederick Learn to Read, whether you're a parent using it with your own children or you're an adult English learner wanting to improve your pronunciation the native way, the way people really learn a language, click on the link in the upper right of this video or on the link in the description below this video. Let me know if you have questions in the comments down below, and please share this video with others who are also looking for a great way to help their kids learn to read.